Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8.5. Let's get at this. We are in the build-up phase, the preparatory phase. So I've not moved any of these garrison units that are along the coast here. I'm fairly good placement with those. So I will say India looks remarkably ungarrisoned. We're up with the northwest, north frontier. Not much along the northwest frontier. As I was saying earlier, India isn't modeled well, in my opinion, in this game. Because there were considerable forces holding down India as part of the Indian army. Sure, you can have energy. Coal. That's sort of the transferable energy type. Uh-oh. Okay, well, let's... Let's just see if we can buy one now. Fuel. Good. Okay, that is going reasonably well. All right. Okay. Let's also see if we can spy on... I don't know, maybe Japan. There's some tech stealing. Saudi Arabia, we would give them supplies, okay. Alright. No thank you, too big. Okay. Well, now we're going to decline that. continue to build our relations up with our dominion. Okay, we're back down to medium popularity. Okay. No, I don't think we'll buy crude oil from them. How are we done with? How are we doing with shipping? Okay. Okay, we'll do that. Let's see, here we are. Okay, we gotta do pop-up and pause. So basic education investment is completed. So let's go take a look at that. We want to continue there. That is important, and hopefully continue expanding. Okay, the second London Naval Treaty is coming up. Okay, Churchill is upset. In the British House of Commons, he speaks of the danger to parliamentary nations from the heavily armed dictatorships. He complains that the spirit of the British people is being tamed and cowed with peace films, anti-recruiting propaganda, and resistance to the defense measures. Churchill is denounced as a scaremonger and a warmonger. Seems like that's what I've been subjected to all my life. Yes, there's war movies, but often, mostly, there's an evil American general who is betraying his troops and his nation or some sort of thing like that, and all those war type guys are just evil, power hungry, mad people, and we have to put a stop to them even in our own country. And any sort of ROTC on campus is bad, and any recruitment, army or any armed forces recruitment on any school campus is bad and evil, and we must put a stop to that. And we need resistance to the defense budget. I know I'm preaching here, but every leftist, Democrat, socialist, well, if we can spend this much on defense, we should be able to spend even more on this sort of domestic program. You know, so if it's $1 or $100 billion or $1 trillion, any amount that is spent on defense, we should be able to easily spend more on our own people and our own nation. Well, are these politicians just power-hungry people that will do anything and say anything to get elected in my country, so that they will always claim that whatever the domestic program that will get them votes from people is a good thing? Or are they actually people who believe that the Soviet Union and the other communists were good, well-meaning people that were just slightly misguided and misunderstood, but we should just let them have their way, because in the end they're doing the good and noble thing and America is bad? Which one is it? Any of you who are watching this series that believe these people, I don't know what to say to you. Because here we are, Churchill is a scaremonger and a warmonger. That's all he is. He wants to. A monger is a person who sells something, just in case you don't know. The meaning of, like, a fishmonger. He's a person who sells fish. The scaremonger, he's selling scariness. That's what the Democrats often say about the Republicans. They're, selling the scariness of terrorism or of the evil invaders from other countries. That's all they're just trying to scare the American people. That's all that they say about them, or that they're warmongers. They just want to go to war. They want to go to war. I had relatives of mine within the last year. They said all they want to do is go to war. You really think George Bush, when he was president, wanted to go to war? You really think any senator wants to go to war? Okay, maybe Lindsey Graham, but that's it. And even someone who wants us to intervene in lots of places, I'm being a little facetious on Lindsey Graham, but who's very much of an interventionist, is McCain. And he got shot down and was in a prison camp for forever until he was offered out. The Vietnamese says, hey, your dad's important. We'll send you home. It'll be good. And I'm not a big fan of McCain. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a big fan of him as a politician. But the Vietnamese, because his dad was an important guy, we'll let you go home. He says, no, I'm going to stay here in your prison, and you get to torture me until you send every last American prisoner you have home. I will be the last one out, or without the last group of them. You don't give me any special treatment. You think he wants to go to war? Wants to go to war? Really? Okay, I may have just lost half my audience here who plays these games, and thinks them, I don't know, some sort of fantasy thing in the past, but votes Democratic always, and because they're the good people. Well, I'm sorry if you can't take this. The Republicans don't want to go to war. They feel they need to go to war, or they feel that if by not going to war now over something, to go to war over it later in the future will just mean a much more terrible and worse war. They don't want to go to war. So the Republicans, the right, the conservatives of Churchill, doesn't want to go to war. He just sees intervening, which he was a big proponent of, intervening against the early days of the Russian Revolution, particularly with trying to get the Czechs to fight the Reds at times as they were evacuating and other things. It's not that he wants wars. He just sees them as something that's going to happen and wants them now and in a small way. He wants a lot of little small wars instead of one big huge world war. I mean, that's a want thing. Do you want one huge world war, or do you want a lot of little small wars out on the periphery somewhere that we deal with it? That, tens of thousands of people may die in that small war that Cindy Sheehan may complain about. But then look at what the hell's going on in Syria and Iraq when we've left. It's worse than ever it was for deaths of civilians and innocents than when the U.S. was occupying. It is much worse now than it ever was under the American occupation in Iraq. If you put in sort of Syria and Iraq together with the ISIS butchering of people, mass murdering, and it isn't just killing people in the midst of fighting just because they're in the way. They're going out and looking for groups of people to kill. So if your true goal is to save lives, not your true goal is to disrupt American policy, but if your true goal is to save lives as a ultimate good, then going in and fighting some of these small wars will save lives. It will also cost lives as well. I am not saying it is a without cost situation. So we haven't seen it here, but I know there's the event for occupying the Rhineland. It is my best understanding that Hitler gave explicit orders to all of the military leaders that were occupying the Rhineland that if the French even just show up and block you, turn around and retreat the hell out. That's what they were ordered. So it wouldn't even have taken a war with France. Had France just gone and say, oh, wait a minute, that's the unoccupied zone. Oh, you're occupying it? No, we're coming in to deal with you. Could have been half-hearted. It could have been a French policeman with a pistol going, get back, get back. They would have retreated. But no, they wanted peace. Peace at any price. Peace at any price means defeat and means death for you and your culture, people. I'm sorry. That's what it means. Peace at any price. Now, peace at the right price, yes. But peace at any price? People that want to say wars never solved anything, they solved a lot of things. We don't have a Nazi Germany going around anymore, do we, people? It went away. Now, maybe someday in the future, 20 years from now, 100 years from now, there may be a new Nazi Germany, but it solved it for a long time. Wars do solve things. So here's Churchill being called a scaremonger. Really? Okay, Germany's scary. He's saying Germany's scary to people. He's just being a scaremonger. Was he right or was he wrong? He was right, obviously. Was he a warmonger? He was willing to go to war in, I don't know, 36 or 30, what would it be, 34 over the Saar land or something else, quite maybe, because he knew Germany wasn't prepared for a world war at that time, and Britain on its own couldn't have done it at that time because it was also unprepared. But Britain and France with Czechoslovakia could have in 34, or was it 35, whatever, have stand up to Germany over the Saar land and pushed back then and humiliated the Nazis. Probably would have had the Nazi government fall, because as we see with the here, right, these two provinces, Saarlouis and Saarbrücken, I believe, would constitute basically all of the Saarland. With most of these governments, they will collapse if their promise of strength, we will be strong, we'll have more military than anybody else, we'll be military great, military blah blah blah, I'm more military than anybody else. Once you show up as go, oh wait a minute, you're not even able to do that little thingy, you can't even do that right, then they collapse because their supporters see that it's a lot of hot air and reasonable heads will prevail if it's shown that their bluster doesn't work. Now, if their bluster works, then they get more powerful. So was Churchill a warmonger and a scaremonger? I don't think so. He was a rational person who saw the problems. He was willing to truly speak the truth as he saw it, where even on the conservative side in Britain, they were into appeasement because they remembered how terrible World War I was and believed that peace at any price was it. Now maybe not, Britain didn't believe peace at the price of London or something to give that up. No, but peace at the price of, yeah, we'll give you Czechoslovakia. Yeah, it'll be alright. They might have even given them Poland had Hitler said, well, I need this part of Czechoslovakia and I need this part of Poland. But no, he just said Czechoslovakia, but when he didn't keep his word, finally Chamberlain realized his word didn't mean anything. So it wasn't like, you know, if he just spelled out I needed this, you know, the Polish corridor and, you know, this area here and I need this area here and I need, because I'm not going to have a funny shaped country, I'm going to take all of the Czech territories, and if either of these nations fight, I'm going to take even more territory. Had he explained that to Neville Chamberlain, Chamberlain might have gone along with it, just because that would have been a limited thing. Had he truly believed that he wasn't going to move the German border any further west, and then maybe if Hitler then picked a fight somehow with the Soviet Union, maybe over Lithuania or Latvia or something like that, that you could have allowed Germany to become Uber Germany without confronting them, which probably would have been a lot worse than it was. But, you know, so even the conservatives at this time were a peace party, but yes, so we gain some unity, relations with Germany change in a negative way a little bit. Okay. Yes, I know I'm ranting there, but I think it was important to say. Second London Naval Treaty. Okay. This treaty limited the maximum size of the signatories' warships and the maximum caliber of guns for which they could carry. There was obviously an earlier one. That's why it's called the second. Let's see. If we sign the treaty, we get better relations with France, the US. We lose dissent and we gain 5 unity. Okay. If we don't sign the treaty, we get much worse relations. We gain lots of dissent and lose lots of unity. Well, we can't really take that at this time. Though this treaty, particularly the first London Naval Treaty, sort of staved off the maybe slightly overblown by some historians likelihood of the Anglo-American War, you know, U.S. versus America, that would have happened in, I think in 26, not really sure, but sometime then, that was coming close to happening over some of this stuff. We'll go for it. It's a stupid move because like Germany particularly didn't sign it. So it was just limiting the good guys. I'm not sure whether Japan had signed that or not. With some of the conflict, I'd have to look that up. Just because of the game mechanics here, and we're building ICs, I'm going to like it once we get to Hearts of Iron 4, in which something like you can easily, won't comment on what it is now, but you can easily be modded to have what, shall we say, well-informed people think, say, shipyard industrial capacity was, which if we just simply turn those into ICs that you could build aircraft with them, or you can build tanks with them, or you can build other ICs with them, would unbalance Britain from its historical abilities as in this thing. But since it's kept strictly as a naval armaments capability, or you know, that type of thing, sit down that as well as armaments factories, so you could be having them crank out, even if you're having to limit their amount of, say, resources available to them. It's still much more historical, but you still have the civil side of the factories that you can crank out more factories on. So okay, we give them supplies for money. Okay, we need money. That's good. Help our relations with them. Afghanistan. Okay. I don't mind also helping my relations out with Afghanistan for a bit. And we've already lost that. Okay, Finland. Latvia. Okay, I like the smaller number there. Okay. We're gonna go now. Oh, Germany wants to trade with me. No, we're not gonna sell you supplies. For multiple reasons, but Let's increase this for the moment. Okay. Do that, and then we have event pop-up. Okay. Great War demonstration. Okay, okay, I think... Okay, so we will reduce that. Okay. No, okay, lots of choices, lots of choices. The U.S. Okay, how much? Yeah, I think we'll just do trade with the U.S. Well, yeah, we'll see about South Africa. We would want South Africa in our... Yeah, no. Okay, English communists. So outside the Soviet Union are attempts. So all those trials, I'm presuming they're meaning the purges in the Soviet Union. He thinks they're great. Those were basically complete fabrications. So let's see. Relations with the Soviet Union changed by that. Lose national unity. People are believing the communist BS. Independent Labor Party gains organization and popularity. Yes. Another little political thing. And yes, I'm speaking to people who believe in Bernie Sanders. I know I had a back and forth with a moderately well-informed person, but who kept trying to say that Bernie Sanders wasn't a communist, even though he literally honeymooned in the Soviet Union, and he says he's modified his views. And since that conversation, I've learned a very interesting historical fact. To the best of my knowledge, the first person who used the term democratic socialist to describe himself, and that's what he was, the very first person that he wasn't a communist, he was just a democratic socialist, and that's all he wanted. He wanted a democracy that was a socialist system, not a communist system. That person was Vladimir Lenin. Okay? Vladimir Lenin was a democratic socialist at his heart and core. So what is a democratic socialist at his heart and core? A communist dictator. If they think they could get away with it, that's what they would put in power. They would hope, they believe, they think that they could do it without the brutality of Lenin, because they see that Russia at the time of the Soviet Revolution was such a backward state that had a theocracy that was really heavily enforced. They see that they still had serfs after a fashion, that people were officially tied to the land. And they see all these other great horrors that were going on in the Soviet Union. Some were, some weren't, that they would describe as horrors, but some weren't. That the violence was necessary under Lenin, and they see that Stalin just was an evil, maniacal maniac that went too far and had to do it. No, that's just what is actually needed to impose communism on a human being in large numbers, because communism doesn't work with human beings. It might very well work with other species. Try ants. I think they're probably very communistical. work on some other species. It doesn't work on human beings. I forget the person's name. He was very sincere in his beliefs that in 100 or 200 years we'll come to some sort of new ability to have a utopia. And one of my questions is what is going to change with the human condition between now and then? Why not do this tomorrow or next year? Why wait that time? What is going to change? Because humanity isn't going to change that much. So the British Labour Party, you can have some sort of moderate Labour people. Why are they moderate Labour people? Because they realize that that's all that they can effectively have happen, because if they push back to the old Labour days, people will reject them because they saw how bad it was. So all of these, I'm not talking about true Democrats here. There's a difference between true Democrat, the old style Democrats of Kennedy and Lyndon Baines Johnson, and even, we're maybe looking at Carter. But these modern Democrats that we see today, they are laborites. Laborites are just communists who don't want to kill a lot of people to achieve their goals. And they believe they can do it eventually through persuasion, but it won't work. So, yes. Unfortunately, we have this happen to us. Which, of course, means... where is... Labor is getting bigger. I don't know, that to me seems like an awfully big Labor Party for this time, but I don't know the details. Where you look at the Liberal Party, what had been up until roughly the 30s or whatever, the main opposition to the Conservative Party. Okay, let's deal with a couple of these things here. Supplies for money. Well, we're way in the positive, but some of that may fall away. So that's awfully big. Okay, we will do that with Australia. Yeah, we'll do that. What do they want? Give them, well, okay, we'll buy a little bit of fuel from them. Help China out. So as you can tell already, I'm not a big fan of communists. And yes, I just think it's too much. That's too little. There we go. I think the people who really know what they're doing inside these leftist socialist movements, they know what they want to get eventually. Do we give them money for energy? We don't need energy. Okay, well. Some factories come online or something, maybe? I think that's what did it, but I don't... No? Don't think so. Well, who do we want to trade with? Let's look at Denmark. Are we exporting energy to anybody? No. We're doing some rare materials, some supplies. Okay. I just don't want to be significantly... don't really care about any of those countries, so we'll wait a bit. No, but let's look around Europe here. They're producing metal. And we are currently in the deficit of 15. They're in the positive territory of 10, so let's see if we can get 7 out of them. I'm hoping that by doing that, we are subtly helping them move a bit more towards the Allies. I know that there are events. No, they're not producing in excess. Enough. And of course get them from the U.S. Well, let's get some from the U.S. And Canada. There we go. That'll both help us economically and help us politically. Didn't we already get that? We'll definitely get to check. Yeah, we're gonna go now. Okay, we'll no longer. Okay, controllable pitch. We want to have, shall we say, roughly the equivalent of the Spitfire or the Hurricane when the war starts. Because I want to fight the Battle of Britain effectively and keep... I don't know how well they would... Oh, we're going to do even more research. Let's... Well, let's do basic bomb. Even though that, of course, isn't defensive fighter, but I want to be able to win that war, air war over Britain. Okay. Brigade HQs have advanced and put them... Presumably it's them, 39, yeah. Out of reach for the moment. Let's see, I'm looking for anything that's 36 now to do. It will definitely help in our core areas. That would be helpful. Single engine armament. Well, we're going to leave those alone for the moment, I think. Okay, we need to start doing some of these as well. Decline that. Let's see who else I care about. We're going to inherit, I believe, Egypt, so Let's do another small trade agreement for some metal here. Now what? That small arms research, that was just pushed off the map because there's too many units it affects. Now let's like we were over. And now we're going to do broadcasting since we already have the basic. 2, we can see about doing some more, which will help. Nah, I don't need to build up their reserves of money. Okay, okay, we'll no longer receive the money there. Let's see, heat wave of 1936. 1936 heat wave affected all of North America and was one of the most severe heat waves in modern history. Death toll exceeded 5,000 in the United States alone. Many summer harvests were destroyed. Drought occurred. Many people suffered. This was definitely... I know a lot of people are into, how shall we say this? Living history organizations, and often think living in the past would be cool. Living in a world without indoor plumbing and electricity, to me, just sucks, because without electricity you don't have air conditioning. So, okay, interesting. And that was pre-war armor construction. So we've pushed that up as far as it can go there. I think these are just waiting for that, and maybe a few other things. You know, like I thought, Britain is on the gasoline engine, I got it, or is that just because I picked the tech? Obviously not the jets now. We'll improve our submarine batteries. Submarines can be very, very useful in places like the Mediterranean for Britain. And we'll see how well AI Germany defends this region from our submarines trying to cut off its supplies. Which, more transports we sink, the more they have to build. Which is sort of the reverse of the strategy that I play against Britain. Okay, well, thank you for watching the videos. Do appreciate that, as well as, of course, liking them. And please post your comments. And hey, if you want to try to argue, you know, as long as everything goes civil, I want to keep the comment section on the forum or the comments areas civil. You want to try to explain why certain democratic socialists are more than just, well, you know, are truly only that, and that's all they ever really want to be. I'm not saying they all want to be Stalin or Lenin, but just to achieve their goals that they really believe in, you need to be somebody like Stalin or Lenin. They think they can do it through propaganda and persuasion and having everybody see the light. I get that, but you can argue why that they're really only just the sort of light socialist and not really communist, claiming to be something else. Please do argue that. I will gladly deal with you as long as everything's kept civil. Okay, see you next time.